Alright everybody, I know that you've already taken notes on these, so hopefully this is just a review for you, and I want to just kind of go over these notes. Okay, so we're going to talk about section 4.1, which is on congruent figures, and I want you to take a look at the definition of congruent polygons. Congruent polygons have corresponding, which means matching parts. Congruent means equal, so all the matching parts are equal. And the matching sides are all equal, and the matching angles are all equal. So we're going to apply this definition of congruent polygons to our examples in this problem. Okay, very first example says triangle ABC is congruent to triangle QTJ. List the corresponding congruent parts. And we have sides and we have angles we have to list. So I'm going to start with my sides. And then I'm going to list my angles. Alright, so I'm looking at these pictures and there's absolutely no marks, and I'm going to add the marks based on this congruent statement. And this congruent statement is very important, and the reason why it's important is because we're going to list the sides in the same order as the letters in the congruent statement. What I mean is this. First two letters I see are letters A and B. So I write that down. That has to be congruent to, and the letters that match in the same spot are Q and T. So I mark AB with one arc mark. I mark QT with one arc mark. The next two letters I see are letters BC that match letters TJ. BC must be congruent to TJ. Because it's a second set, I mark BC and I mark TJ. The third set of letters I see go from A to C, which matches Q to J. So I know AC has to be congruent to QJ. And you can see on the picture, this AC with 3 arc marks matches this QJ with 3 arc marks. Okay, now we're going to go to the angles, and for my angles, the first angle that I see in my picture is angle A and angle Q. They're in the same spots. So angle A must be congruent to angle Q. So I mark angle A congruent to angle Q. The next letters that I see is angle B matching up with angle T. So I mark angle B with 2 arc marks, angle T, 2 arc marks. My last angles are letter C and letter J. So angle C has to be congruent to angle J. And I mark C with 3 arc marks and letter J with 3 arc marks. And I'm done with the picture. So in a triangle, you have 3 congruent sides and 3 congruent angles for a total of 6 congruent parts. Okay, moving on. Next example. I don't have a picture for this one. It tells me that triangle XYZ is congruent to triangle KLM. And that's all I know. So I'm going to draw 2 triangles that are rather generic but look alike. I'm going to label this one X, Y, Z. I'm going to label this one the same way. X has to match up with K, Y has to match up with L, and Z has to match up with M. Now here are my 2 triangles. Now I'm going to fill in the given information. Angle Y is 67. So I find angle Y, which is 67. Angle M is 48. So I find angle M, which is 48. The directions say, find out what X is. Now here's the thing. I know because the triangles are congruent, their parts match. So if this is 67, this is also 67. if this angle is 48, this angle is also 48. My job is to find x. I'm going to use the triangle angle sum theorem. I know that angle x plus 67 plus 48 has to equal 180 degrees. When I take the time and add these together, so 67 plus 48 is equal to 115. And subtract that from 180, angle x, the measure of angle x, has to equal 180, take away 115, is 65 degrees. So this angle for sure is 65 degrees. And that means this angle by default has to be 65 degrees as well. Okay, next problem. Are you able to conclude that these two triangles are congruent in the figure below? Well, don't forget, we have to have all the matching parts equal. So if I'm looking, I got this 3 matches this 3, this 4 matches this 4. I've got this arc mark matching this arc mark, so all the sides are the same. I also know that I have a right angle at B, a right angle at D, and a single arc mark at A, a single arc at E, and I can always mark vertical angles congruent. So it appears all 6 parts, the 3 angles and the 3 sides, are matched up. So initially you think, yeah, these triangles are congruent. But be very, very careful. You have to match the parts exactly. So according to this, this tells you angle A and angle C are exactly the same. And if I look at angle A, it has 1 arc mark. And if I look at angle C, it has 2 arc marks. So, no. The congruent statement is wrong. It should be. Okay, now we're going to write it the correct way. You can name the first triangle any way you want. I choose to name it triangle A, B, C is congruent to triangle. Now the second one has to match up. Angle A has a single arc mark. I match it up with angle E with a single arc mark. B is the right angle. It matches up to D. And then C is the vertical angle. It matches up with C. That is the correct answer. All right, we're going to try some practice problems on our own. Theorem 4.1 says if 2 angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, then the third angles are congruent. The directions say, show how you can conclude that these triangles are congruent, list the statements and the reasons. I need all 6 parts, need 6 parts equal. I need 3 equal angles, and I need 3 equal sides. All right, let's see what we're given. For my angles, I know angle C is equal to angle D. This is given. I know angle C and G is congruent to angle D and G because it's also given all right angles are congruent. It's given by the marks. However, what I don't have marked is these angles up here. But from the theorem I just read, if 2 angles of one triangle, angle C and angle N, are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, angle D and angle N, then the third angles must be congruent. So I can say that angle CGN has to be congruent to angle DGN because of this theorem 4.1. All right, let's talk about the sides. What do I know about my sides? I know that there's one arc mark here and one arc mark here. So I know that CN for sure is congruent to DN because it's given in the marks. I have two arc marks here and two arc marks here. So I know that CG for sure is congruent to DG because it's also given in the marks. Where is the third side that we need? Well, the third side that we need comes from this common side right here. It's shared for both triangles, so I can mark that side equal to itself because of the reflexive property. So I can say GN is congruent to GN because of this thing called reflexive property. This is incredibly important because we're going to use it all the time during this chapter with our proofs. All right, let's answer these questions. You need to answer these questions on your own, and I have the answers here at school. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video so you can get these notes and then check on your own if you understand the following. Okay, guys, you have a good day. Bye. All right. In lesson 4.1, we learned that in order for two triangles to be congruent, all three matching sides have to be equal and all three matching angles have to be equal. However, over the next 2 days or 2 lessons, we're going to actually use the fact that we only need 3 matching parts. You need 3 matching parts in order to be equal to prove that two triangles are congruent. Today, we're focusing on sides. So we're going to focus on all 3 sides are equal, or the 2 sides and the included angle are equal. So we're working on side, 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 or side, angle, side. Remember, this angle is included between the sides. We're going to be doing lots of proofs in this chapter, so we're just going to start off with a proof right off the bat. Don't forget, in your assignment, you have to do your own proof setup, which means you have to first draw the picture. So a proof setup means the picture, what you're going to prove next to the picture, your statements and reasons columns, and 4, your given information as the first statement. Every single time you guys do a proof, you do these things in this order. First, draw the picture. Second, write what you're going to prove next to the picture. Third, write your statements and reasons column. And fourth, make your all your given information your first statement. So the picture's already been drawn for you. I'm going to make my statements and reasons column. When I draw my picture, I never include marks. In my pictures, I mark them as I write my given information. Okay, my first given information is that M is the midpoint of XY, and AX is congruent to AY. And this is given to me. Now you're going to use all the given information, so you have to know how to mark it. Okay, before I do this, I want to give you a hint. Notice in the given information you have a word. So if you're given words, if given words, use definitions as reasons. That's your hint. If you're given words, use definitions as reasons. And if you notice, we were given words. We were told M is the midpoint of segment XY. So what does that really mean? Here's segment XY. M is right in the middle of it. What it means is that the midpoint cuts the segment exactly into two equal parts. So I can mark this piece equal to this piece. And if I mark it on the picture and I don't have a reason, a congruent statement, I have to write it. So I'm going to say segment XM for sure is congruent to segment YM. And the reason is because it's a word, definition, which we abbreviate, of midpoint. Okay, second piece of information I was given is that AX is congruent to AY. So since it's the second piece, I'm going to mark it with 2 arc marks. Alright, that's all I'm given. That's all I'm given. From the rest of this point on, you guys have to look at the picture to get information out. And what I know is this. There's 2 reasons why you're always going to be able to mark a picture. One reason is because of vertical angles, which look like the shape of bow ties. And the other reason is because triangles share a common side. Now I certainly do not see bow ties in this picture, but I do see this common side right here that both triangles have. I get to mark that side congruent because of the reflexive property. So I need to write it down because I marked it. I know AM is congruent to AM because of reflexive property. Now you have to have 3 congruent pieces in order to say the triangles are congruent. And in my statements I do. 1, 2, 3. What these 3 pieces are marking is the side is congruent to the side, which is also congruent to the side. So this is a side, side, side congruent statement, which means I can write my very last statement, which is what I'm trying to prove. So what I'm trying to prove is this. So I write down what I'm trying to prove. Triangle AMX is congruent to triangle AMY. And the reason why they're congruent is because of side, side, side. And I'm done with my proof. Okay, going to do another proof. In example 2, it tells you that segment AD is congruent to segment BC. The question says, what other information do you need to prove that triangle ADC, now take a look at triangle ADC, ADC is this overlapping triangle. So I'm going to redraw it. ADC, of which this side is marked. Then it's going to be congruent to triangle BCD. BCD. I'm going to redraw that. BCD, of which this is marked. Now, there's something I noticed right away. The red color and the green color overlapped. That means I have this thing called a common side. This DC and this DC are the same because of reflexive property. So the question says, what other information do I need to prove that these triangles are congruent from side angle side? I need another angle. I have 2 sides. And the angle specifically has to be between the sides. And so this is what I need. I need this big angle congruent to this big angle. So I need angle ADC congruent to angle BCD. in order to say these triangles are congruent from side angle side. Okay, let's do another one. Quick check. Can we prove these two triangles are congruent? Well, let's find out. I know I didn't give you a lot of room. My apology. Statements and reasons. First statement is always what you're given. I'm given angle RSG is congruent to angle RSH. I'm also given that segment SG is congruent to segment SH, and this is given to me. So I'm going to mark it on my picture. Angle RSG, right here, is congruent to angle RSH, right there. And SG, this segment, is equal to SH, that segment. I only have two marks on my picture. I need a third mark. Now remember, the only marks you can make are vertical angle marks or common side marks. Which mark do we have in this picture? We have a common side right here. I need to write it down so I know RS is congruent to RS. Reflexive property. And now I have enough information to say what I want to say. So I can say that triangle RSG is congruent to triangle RSH because, now let's read the marks, I have a side, an angle, and a side for each triangle. And you're done with your proof. Okay, folks, we're going to do a few more check for understandings. I'm just going to answer these questions. I'm not going to explain them so much as I go, but just watch how I do these next problems. Okay, in triangle VGB, I need triangle VGB. Which side includes angle B? Which sides include angle B? Here's angle B. So it's this side and this side. So side VB and side GB. Notice they both have the letter B inside of them. Okay, in triangle STN, which angle is included between sides NS and TN? NS and TN. Well, I can see that this angle is the 1. I can also see it's the only common letter I have, so the answer is angle N. Scrolling up. Number 3. Which triangles can I prove congruent? Well, I have 2 marks on each of these triangles. I need a third mark, and I know I can mark vertical angles congruent. So I'm going to mark these angles congruent. And now I can see my mark say side, angle, side. So I can prove triangle. I'm going to name this triangle APB. Can be proven congruent to triangle. I have to match up my marks. And so A goes from A to P, it goes down a single marked letter, and then it goes down a double marked letter. So I'm going to match it up to X, P, Y, and the reason is because of side, angle, side. What other information do I need to prove these 2 triangles are congruent? I only have 1 mark, so I'm going to need 2 pieces of information. It depends if I want to prove them congruent from side, angle, side, or side, side, side. So if I'm doing side angle side, if I'm doing this, I need an angle in another side. So I would need angle O, also congruent to angle G, and I would need side DO congruent to side DG, or DW congruent to DW with angle DWO congruent to angle DWG. So I would need this information or this information if I wanted to prove congruent from side angle side. If I'm doing side side side, then I just need the other two sides equal. So I could do DO congruent to DG and DW congruent to DW. Depends on how you want to prove the triangle is congruent. Okay, last one. Can you prove these triangles are congruent? The way that these marks read from the given information is this is marking an angle, this is marking this side, and this is marking this side. Now if I read these marks, it's going to spell a bad word. I'm going to tell you that. You could spell angle, side, side, or side, side, angle. This is not a valid reason because it doesn't work. Not always. So the answer is no. And that's my explanation. Alright, you guys. I hope this helped you a lot. You have a good day.